What happens when a billionaire, cold, calculated, and emotionally distant, watches a black waitress do something no one else dared, letting his disabled son lead on a dance floor? What follows is not just shocking. It unravels everything he thought he knew about power, pride, and love. You won't believe how this night ends. The ballroom glowed with gold and crystal. Chandeliers bathed the floor in warm light. Strings played a delicate waltz, each note polished and precise. Billionaire Raymond Ashcroft stood near the bar, untouched bourbon in hand. His tailored suit clung sharp to his frame, but his posture slouched. He watched the crowd, but his eyes found only one figure. His son, 12-year-old Daniel, slumped in a wheelchair, lip trembling with each passing note. Guests avoided him like a dropped napkin. Raymond clenched his jaw. This party was for Daniel. But Daniel did not matter here. Then she entered. A waitress. Skin dark as onyx, uniform too large, eyes too bright for this cold place. She moved past the guests like music that had forgotten to ask permission. She approached Daniel without hesitation. Raymond's breath caught. She kneeled beside the boy, whispered something. Daniel blinked, then smiled. The first time in months. Then she did something no one else dared. She took his hand, rose to her feet, and began to dance. Right there, in front of them all. Her hand guiding his, letting his wheels turn, her steps matching his motion. Gasps rippled through the room, like dropped silverware. Eyes turned, mouths opened. The music played on, suddenly too loud, too fragile. Raymond's hand trembled. His son was leading, and they were following. Some guests whispered. One woman laughed behind her pearls. But Daniel was laughing too, freely, from the chest. Raymond stepped forward. His shoes echoed louder than he expected. He saw her face now, not just the calm strength, but the defiance in her smile, as if she knew this world would spit her out and chose to dance anyway. Something broke inside him. A noise. Soft animal. From his own throat. Not grief. Something older. Memory maybe. Of another hand. Smaller. Darker. That once reached for him. And was slapped away. He looked around. No one saw the boy anymore. Only the scandal. But he saw, for the first time, his son was alive. And it was not his money that gave him that breath. It was her. Not a therapist. Not a private tutor. A waitress with aching feet and no nameplate. She let him lead, and never once looked down. Raymond's legs moved on their own. He crossed the room. He reached for her shoulder. You said, continue where you stop. ChatGPT said. She turned slowly. Her eyes met his. Steady. Calm. Unafraid. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Only heat. Rising in his chest. Burning behind his eyes. Daniel wheeled between them, spinning slightly, laughing as if the air had finally remembered how to hold him. The crowd had fallen silent. Music still played, but it no longer mattered. All that remained was the triangle of space between the billionaire, the waitress, and the boy. Thank you, Raymond said, voice graveled unfamiliar. She gave the smallest nod, as if she had heard it before from men who rarely meant it. But he did. He meant it in a way that frightened him. Raymond looked at Daniel. His son's joy was not polite or performative. It was unfiltered, messy, real. He had never seen his child like this. Not during therapy. Not during vacations on private islands. Not even when he had gifted him the custom racing chair. Daniel had always smiled for Raymond's benefit. But now, he was not smiling for anyone. He was just happy. Raymond's fingers twitched. He looked at the waitress again. Noticed the seam torn at her cuff. The glint of tape holding her shoe together. She had been invisible in this room. Now she stood like a lighthouse. Every eye was on her, and yet she stood taller. He felt something shift beneath his ribs. An old shame clawing up from the gut. He remembered the men in his father's boardroom. The way they spoke about people like her. As if they were numbers, or problems, or silence with legs. Raymond had once nodded along. Now he felt nauseous. Daniel reached up, tugged at the waitress's hand. She leaned down again. He whispered. She smiled, then looked at Raymond. "He wants you to dance," she said. The words landed like thunder. Raymond stared at her, at his son. The crowd behind him had begun murmuring again. Cameras were rising. Phones aimed like weapons. He hesitated, then stepped forward. "You said, continue where you stop," ChatGPT said. His shoes brushed the edge of Daniel's wheel. The music softened in his ears, like it had dipped underwater. He reached out, slow, unsure. Daniel took his hand, without hesitation. The boy's fingers were warm, eager. The waitress stepped back, giving space, her eyes never leaving them. Raymond bent slightly, awkward in his movements, stiff like a machine learning grace. Daniel led again. A gentle turn of the wheel. A roll forward. Raymond followed. Not with the control of a choreographed life, but with the raw stumbles of someone letting go. Laughter bubbled from Daniel's chest again. It was louder now, stronger. Raymond felt it vibrate through their joined hands. Gasps whispered around the room. Flashbulbs flickered like nervous lightning. Raymond did not care. He saw nothing but the boy, and the woman who had made this moment possible. He looked up at her again. She watched with arms crossed, face calm, but her jaw clenched. Not in anger, in readiness. Like someone waiting for the blow that always comes after a boundary is crossed. He felt that. Deep. Ugly. True. All his life, Raymond had believed in systems. Control. Currency. He had never believed in small kindness. He had never believed someone like her could teach him anything. But now he felt like the student. He stepped again, in rhythm with Daniel's chair. A slow, circling sway. People parted. Not out of respect, but confusion. The billionaire was dancing. Not with a model. Not with a CEO. With his son. And because of a black waitress whose name no one had asked. Raymond exhaled sharply, turned toward her. "What is your name?" he asked. She paused. 1 beat. 2. Then answered. "Celeste." He nodded. Twice. As if the syllables landed on some buried memory. She looked ready to retreat, to disappear back into the noise and trays and shadows. But Raymond shook his head. "Stay." He heard his voice crack. "Please. Stay." Celeste froze, then stepped closer. No tray, no apron, just presence. Daniel beamed at her, then at his father. The circle of movement resumed. And for the first time in years, Raymond felt something loosen in his chest. Not grief, not guilt, recognition. He looked at Celeste, at Daniel, and whispered not to them, but to himself. "I never knew what he needed." Celeste replied without flinching. "You still can." You said, "Continue where you stop." ChatGPT said. Raymond's breath caught. Not from the words, but from the way she said them. Quiet, clear, without pity, without permission. "You still can." It echoed in him, louder than the music, sharper than the stares. Daniel gave a sudden spin, too wide, nearly bumping a table. Raymond flinched, reached out. But Celeste was faster. She steadied the chair with a single hand, never breaking stride. She did not scold. She smiled. Raymond saw it then. The difference. She moved with Daniel, not around him. She listened with her whole body. Not as a caretaker, but as a partner. As if the boy's movements were music, and she simply followed its rhythm. Raymond stepped back. Let her take the lead again. It felt like surrender, and it felt like grace. Around them, the party had fractured. Some guests had left. Others lingered on the edge, unsure whether to applaud or retreat. The music had shifted. No longer classical. A jazz trio now played in the corner. Improvised. Strange. Beautiful. Daniel was dancing to it. Not perfectly, but joyfully. Raymond turned to Celeste again. "I would like to offer you a job." She raised an eyebrow. Not surprised. Not impressed. Just waiting. He continued. "No, not a job. That is not enough." He paused. Searched for words money had never taught him. "I want you in his life." She crossed her arms. Still silent. still weighing him. Then she asked, "Why now?" Raymond did not blink. Because the lie would not come. And the truth hurt too much to swallow. Because you made him feel seen. He looked down, then added, "And I think you made me see him for the first time." Celeste said nothing, but something in her shoulders softened. Daniel rolled up between them again. "Can we dance again tomorrow?" he asked. Raymond looked at him, then at her. Celeste smiled. "If your dad learns to follow better." Raymond laughed. A small, startled sound. And for the first time in his life, it did not feel hollow. "You said, continue where you stop." ChatGPT said. Daniel clapped his hands. The kind of clap that did not ask for approval. Only joy. Raymond knelt beside him. His knees ached. But he welcomed the pain. It felt like penance. He placed his hand on Daniel's. "I will learn," he said. "Teach me." Daniel grinned. Celeste leaned down too. Their heads formed a quiet triangle. "Close." Unspoken. Daniel whispered, "We can start with spinning." Raymond nodded, eyes stinging again. "Spin it is." The jazz swelled. Guests faded. Some whispered with disapproval. Others watched with strange wonder. But no one mattered anymore. Not the investors. Not the cameras. Not the legacy. Just this moment. 3 people. A circle of movement. An old man learning the rhythm of a child's world. And a woman who refused to wait for permission to be human. Raymond rose slowly. He looked around the grand ballroom. Marble floors. Painted ceilings. All of it suddenly small. Meaningless. Then he turned to Celeste again. This time, not as a man offering power, but as a father asking for help. "What would you do if this were your son?" he asked. Celeste looked at Daniel, then at Raymond. Her answer came gently. "I would let him lead." She took Daniel's hand once more. Raymond stepped back and watched them spin. "You said, continue where you stop." ChatGPT said. The spin was slow, imperfect, beautiful. Daniel's laughter lifted through the high ceilings like birds startled into flight. Raymond stood still, hands loose at his sides, watching a world he had never known how to enter. He had built empires, crushed rivals, but he had never known how to follow his own child's joy. Celeste danced with Daniel as if no one watched, as if the marble, the velvet, the old money, none of it could touch them. Raymond felt tears on his cheek. He did not wipe them. He let them fall, one by one, soft, unapologetic. The crowd no longer whispered. They just watched. And then, slowly, something else happened. A man in a gray suit stepped forward. An older woman next. Then another. Not many, but enough. They began to dance. Not polished, not practiced, just movement. Around them, space gave way to motion. The air shifted. The party cracked open, and something honest bled through. Raymond saw it all with new eyes. He turned once more to Celeste. "Will you help me?" he asked. She met his gaze, not with surprise, but with the weight of someone who had been asked too late, too rarely. "Help you do what?" she asked. Raymond looked at Daniel, then back to her. "Become someone he can laugh with." She studied him for a long moment, then gave the smallest nod. "I will show you the first step." She extended her hand, not to Daniel, to Raymond. He hesitated, then placed his palm in hers. It was rougher than she expected. Hers was warmer than he imagined. They moved, one step, then another, and for the first time in a life of deals and silence and control, Raymond Ashcroft let someone else lead. "You said, continue where you stop." ChatGPT said. The room blurred at the edges, not from the lights, but from the quiet breaking inside him. Each step felt unfamiliar, like walking in someone else's memory. But Celeste did not rush him. She moved with patience, not the forced kind, the kind earned by weathering storms without an umbrella. Raymond followed, badly at first, then better, his feet untrained, his breath uneven, but his heart finally in the right place. Daniel clapped again. "Dad, you are dancing like a robot." Raymond laughed, truly laughed. a jagged, chest-deep sound that cracked open the last of his pride. "I am a work in progress," he said. Celeste smiled, still guiding. "You are not a project." He looked at her, confused. She added, "You are just a father trying." "That is enough for now." The dance slowed. Not from fatigue. From gravity. Not the physical kind. The kind that pulls people closer when words cannot. Raymond stepped back, looked at both of them. One with a boy's smile. The other with a woman's fire. He suddenly realized this was the most expensive moment of his life. And it had cost him nothing. Only his fear. Only his control. Only the armor he wore in rooms like this. He turned to Daniel. "Do we keep dancing, or do we eat cake?" Daniel squinted dramatically. "Cake. Definitely cake." Celeste laughed softly. "I second that." Raymond nodded. Then whispered to himself. "Let him lead." He wheeled Daniel gently toward the dessert table. Celeste walked beside them. Not behind. Never behind. And somewhere behind them, the music kept playing. But now it played to follow. 2 of 2. You said. Continue where you stop. ChatGPT said. The dessert table shimmered under soft lights. Silver trays held confections like sculptures, flawless, untouched. Daniel pointed. A slice of the tall one, with the gold flakes. Raymond chuckled. Of course. Only the most structurally unsound dessert in the room. Celeste reached for a plate, quick and practiced. But Daniel stopped her. "Dad can do it." Raymond blinked. His hands hovered over the silver cake knife. 100 boardroom speeches, 1,000 contracts. None had prepared him for this. He glanced at Celeste. She nodded once. No instructions. Just faith. Raymond sliced. Clumsily. Cream squished. Gold flakes scattered like brittle crowns. He placed the slice on Daniel's plate. It leaned to the side, defeated but proud. Daniel grinned. Perfect. He dug in, chocolate already on his chin. Raymond looked at him with something heavy and soft behind his ribs. "I never knew you liked chocolate." Daniel shrugged. No one ever asked. The words dropped like stones. Raymond felt them land. Celeste stood still beside them, quiet now, watching how truth changes shape in a child's mouth. Raymond turned to her, his voice low. "Stay tonight. Eat with us." She hesitated, not out of fear, out of experience. "Are you sure?" Raymond met her eyes. And for once, he spoke with no performance. No one should go home alone after a night like this. Celeste nodded. Then slowly, carefully, she took a seat beside Daniel. Raymond followed. The three of them at the edge of a marble kingdom. A boy, a billionaire, and a waitress. Sharing cake. Sharing silence. And for the first time in years, not one of them felt small. The cake was nearly gone. Crumbs clung to the corners of Daniel's mouth like joyful confetti. Celeste wiped them gently with a napkin. Daniel swatted her hand with a giggle. Raymond watched them, the corner of his mouth lifting, not in habit, but in warmth. The ballroom had emptied. Just staff now, packing glassware into crates, voices hushed. The chandeliers dimmed, their brilliance giving way to a softer hush. But at their table, light still pooled. A quiet, golden kind. Raymond leaned back in his chair, not tired, at peace. He looked at Daniel, then at Celeste, then at the space between them. No longer distance, now a thread, woven through laughter, woven through effort. He stood, then knelt beside Daniel again. "Tonight, I watched you teach me how to live." Daniel blinked, puzzled. Raymond smiled. "I was so busy trying to fix the world for you. I never realized I just had to join it." Celeste placed a hand on his shoulder. Not for comfort, for solidarity. Raymond looked up at her. "I want to build something different," he said. "Not for appearances. Not for legacy. For him." Celeste nodded. "That is the only kind that lasts." Outside, the night had deepened. Street lights flickered like tired stars. Daniel yawned. Celeste stretched. Raymond stood tall again, but lighter somehow. He looked once more at the room, at what it had been, at what it had become. He whispered, more to himself than to them. No more grand performances. Celeste smiled. just dancing. Raymond turned to Daniel. Ready to go home, son? Daniel nodded, sleepy-eyed. Raymond placed his hands on the wheelchair's handles. Celeste walked beside them, and as they passed beneath the last fading chandelier, 3 shadows moved as one, not behind each other, but forward, together.